All right, it is Severe Weather Week here at News Channel 6. Good evening, Texoma. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ken Johnson.
And I'm meteorologist Garrett James. Thanks for joining us tonight. During this 30-minute weather special called Fifth Season, we're actually going to be looking at highlighting important severe weather topics, including changing the storm seasons, including the changing of the storm seasons, storm anxiety, and how Jacksboro is recovering after an EF3 tornado left parts of the city in rubble.
All right, but what we want to start with tonight, though, we want to talk about some changes that we've been noticing anyway with severe weather season. Tornadoes can really happen just about any time of the year, but historically they're more likely to happen in our part of the world from late March into the middle of May. However, there are some trends that suggest at least slight changes to that, with an earlier start and perhaps an earlier end to what's considered tornado season. An imbalance or instability in the atmosphere is needed for a thunderstorm to form. In addition, wind shear or a change in wind direction and speed throughout different layers of the atmosphere is needed to make a thunderstorm spin and produce tornadoes.
The wind profiles that we care about, so the good wind shear tends to peak in the wintertime.
Mm-hmm.
Moisture tends to peak, as anybody who's lived in this part of the world knows. The humidity peaks in the summertime.
Mm-hmm.
But we want to have both things together at the same time.
Those two overlap for a few months during the spring.
And so there's that window in the springtime when there's still just enough wind shear and we're starting to get just enough moisture that they come together, and they come together frequently in that short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
You get into the summertime and you guys will have dew point 75 without a whole lot of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
But the closest wind shear aloft is somewhere in the Dakotas.
However, senior research scientist for the National Severe Storms Laboratory, Harold Brooks, has noticed a change in some of these weather patterns.
It seems that the thing that would tie them together are changes in what we would refer to as the large-scale atmospheric pattern,
mm-hmm.
the waviness of the atmosphere.
Right.
And there's been some evidence that the waves have become a little bit more meridional, so a lot more north-south over the years in the northern hemisphere, and are moving further north a little bit earlier. They're moving north a little bit earlier in the year, and maybe starting a little bit earlier in the year, so that the beginning may move up.
Spring-like storm systems are organizing over us during the months of February and March, when low-level moisture needed for severe storms is limited. Warmer temperatures later in April and May allow for a greater supply of moisture, but storm systems are showing signs of getting weaker, with the jet stream shifting into the northern parts of the country by the time we get into the middle of May, which historically is prime season for tornadoes in our part of the country.
We don't really have a convincing physical explanation to say why, which would make, if we did that, it'd be easier to find the change. If we were able to say it's moving, it should be moving north earlier in the year because XYZ happens, then you can do the statistic based on the presence of X, Y, and Z.
One reason may be a warming planet.
Normally, to see in the long run, on average, more moisture at low levels. And on average, and this is the key thing, on average, we would expect in mid-latitudes the wind shear to decrease because the pole's warming more than the equator.
Right.
Brooks says the weakening jet stream has led to fewer tornado days.
We've gone from 150 days per year with an F1 and greater tornado to 100.
Extreme weather photographer and producer Brandon Clement follows weather patterns all over the world. He believes the recent La Nina weather pattern may be to blame for the weakening storm systems in the spring.
So do I think it's got something? Absolutely. There's no big driver of weather in the world bigger than the La Nina, El Nino patterns.
So we're going out of a La Nina pattern this year, going towards neutral. What do you think about the spring for the southern United States, the plains, and over into the southeast?
Typically, southern plains, some of your bigger events happen when there is plenty of moisture in the southwest and west coast, and you have La Nina transitioning to neutral conditions or slight El Nino conditions, usually where you get some of the bigger, more violent outbreaks.
It is possible that a warming planet is causing a decrease in the number of tornado-producing days, but days with significant tornadoes may be going up.
The number of tornadoes, the number of days with a lot of tornadoes has increased nationally.
Okay.
For instance, if we look at the number of days with at least 30 F1 and stronger tornadoes, in the 1970s there was one every other year on average. We now have 2 to 3 per year.
Clement also agrees and says weather extremes are the new norm.
Yeah, it's extremes. Everything's extreme. So climate change, it's just a threat multiplier. That's all it is. It's so these big events are just more likely to happen because of climate change. It doesn't mean that the next event that happens is because of climate change, but it is more likely that it happened because of climate change.
And when some of those bigger events happen, a lot of the behind the scenes action actually takes place right here in the Weather Center, whereas we go to building graphics and making the forecast. And another place with more action that you see is on our green screen in the weather wall. That's where Ken Johnson is. Now he has a look at what we can expect this spring.
Yeah, behind me is actually a big old green screen. I actually don't see anything behind me. I'm looking at monitors. That's how we do it, a little TV magic. All right, the last 3 years, drought conditions because of this. La Nina, cooling of the water in the Pacific Ocean off the South American coast, and that greatly influences the weather pattern. And it usually means warm, dry weather down our way. It's what helped to spawn the drought that we've experienced over the last year or so. But the good news is we've started kind of getting away from that, and we really saw the evidence of that over the fall and winter season now. And you can see some parts of our area no longer even in the drought, while the western parts of the area have actually seen some improvement. So as of right now, we are neutral. We're no longer in La Nina. In fact, we're going to trend towards more of an El Nino weather pattern over the summer and by next fall. That's where the water does the opposite in the Pacific Ocean off the South American coast, where it's warmer than average instead of cooler, and that typically brings wetter weather to our part of the country. So here is my spring outlook for the rest of March. It does look kind of cool, pretty chilly weather pattern setting up. I do think we'll get some more wet weather to go on top of what we've already had, and there might be some isolated severe stuff here or there. I do expect us to warm up and to get more active during the month of April, and I still expect near to above average rainfall, which is certainly more good news. Now, as we head into May, we may start off kind of active, but we'll have to watch and see how weather patterns behave, as we could transition to summer again, perhaps by the middle to the latter part of the month.
Over the last couple of years, the Comanche Nation entertainment business and News Channel 6 have teamed up to provide us with the ultimate storm tracking vehicle. Take a look. This thing has all the bells and whistles on it. It has cameras in the front, cameras in the back, and one of the coolest things that we have on there, we actually have 2 of these, is a 360 bubble cam. It is a camera that sits up on top, and it allows us to video no matter what direction. It allows us to go around in a circle, and we can get all angles of the storm. With this vehicle being all-wheel drive, we can take it anywhere in any weather conditions with confidence.
All right, still ahead, anxiety can be caused by many reasons, including storms. So after the break, we're hearing from the health experts on what you can do for yourself and your pets to feel better as the thunder starts to rumble.
All right, everybody, we're going to continue over here on Facebook Live while we're in a commercial break really quickly, and we're going to discuss a couple of things. So I'm going to go ahead and walk back over to the main anchor desk real quick, and Ken and I are going to sit down and talk. And Ken, you actually got to sit down and talk about that storm anxiety, and there are a lot of people here that suffer with storm anxiety, and a lot of pets too. And I think a lot of the root of that is from the '79 tornado, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would definitely say that. Matter of fact, the lady I talked to, Katie Lister, said that a lot of what she's experienced as far as storm anxiety, it's kind of like PTSD. Mm-hmm. When a soldier comes home from the battlefield, maybe something like a car backfiring or something will take his mind or her mind to another place.
Right.
So a lot of times it's traumatic events that revolved around weather that created that. when I was a kid, I had storm anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
and it was the storm anxiety that fueled my interest in weather to actually become a meteorologist. It was my fear that actually I turned into something that I really enjoyed.
Right, and I feel like you see that in a lot of people. They're turning those fears now into interest, and so it's always great that we can get people to channel that anxiety into end up being a passion. And during this Facebook Live, we are going to be continuing to just kind of do behind the scenes looks as well. And so Ken and I are going to just briefly talk about this next, what we call block, and it's essentially the time between commercial breaks. And so we're about to enter our second block, or the B block, and Ken, it's going to be us on a double shot real quick, and then you're going to take over with the anxiety pack.
Yep, I'm pretty disappointed. We don't have very many people on Facebook watching this at all. But as I've been saying, and I want to take this chance to remind viewers, you have to. Meta has changed everything up. You have to go in now and manually turn on those notifications. You won't get them. There should be a little bell there somewhere. You click it and you get notifications. Otherwise, you don't even know we're on. I mean, I've had people that have contacted me, why don't you do Facebook Lives anymore? Well, I do.
Yeah, we do them every day,
Yeah,
both on our pages and News Channel 6
Well,
page.
anytime there's a threat for weather, we're on. I mean, I've gotten to where I do a lot of stuff. And it's not just weather. I do all kinds of stuff on there now, too. But like I say, 8, 9 people watching, just Facebook just isn't what it is. I've actually started doing a lot on YouTube as well, so I'm trying to steer people to YouTube and Facebook. Facebook is still a great source. It's a great source. It keeps us from having to do severe weather cut-ins over commercial breaks.
Right.
And
Oh, that is
over
a
your
great
programming.
thing.
So I like it. I like it because of that reason right there.
Yeah,
So.
you and me both. And so, yeah, with us having about 30 seconds until we come back from commercial break, we're just going to hang out and wait for things to get going again. Yeah, I hate that, Facebook has changed so much that we're just not seeing the views, but
It's changed.
and
Changed a lot.
that's why you
So
gotta
we're
make
going to be
sure-
right here. You going to be where are you going to be?
We're going to be right here.
Okay.
So. You're watching News Channel 6. Thunderstorms and severe weather are a way of life in our part of the country, especially with me, storm chasing. But this way of life can actually be a big problem for some people and their furry friends.
That's right. Tonight we're learning how storm anxiety impacts people and pets and what you can do to feel better when it starts to getting bad outside. What was going through your mind as this tornado was hitting your school?
We think we're gonna make it.
I
My friend
thought-
Kennedy said, "Jesus, I love you, but I don't want to meet you today."
It was so funny, and I told her, I said, Kennedy, be quiet.
Avery and Jillian McCrory were never really scared of bad weather until March 21st, 2022. That's when an EF3 tornado slammed into their elementary school in Jacksboro, Texas.
And then we hear the bang, which we now know was the gym wall, and then it really starts.
So as it really starts, what's going on?
Crying, screaming.
We were next to a door, and our doors have windows, and we didn't know what was happening, so we looked at the window of that room, and the tornado was in that room. So we just looked through the window, and we could see a tornado in our classroom.
Ever since that Monday afternoon in March, they've been terrified.
We don't sleep. We have a thing that goes off. So we'll be in our rooms, and our rooms are on the other side of the house. And then when we hear that beeping noise, whether it's a bad weather advisory or a tornado, this alert warning, not an actual thing, we just sprint out of our rooms. And we have loft beds, so I jump off my loft bed and sprint into my parents' room.
The girl's father, Wes McCurry, says he always monitored the weather in North Texas, but says the tornado has really changed things around their home.
So before the tornado, totally, just would sleep through any thunderstorm, no big deal. And now, first clap of thunder, we're going to get a visitor. What
the girls are experiencing is called storm anxiety, or a fear of bad weather. Katie Lister, who is a nurse practitioner for a local psychiatrist, says this type of anxiety is like what a soldier experiences after coming home from the battlefield.
Similar things can happen with the weather, that they'd experienced something horrible before, And when the weather starts looking like or sounding like something that they'd experienced before, it can really just go, their brains go right back to that, and the anxiety response is just right there.
The girls aren't alone. Many people and pets suffer from this type of anxiety.
Some people have more of only the emotional symptoms, the mental type of racing thoughts, trouble focusing, feeling kind of foggy, and just thinking also that things are kind of racing out of their control. And then sometimes there's some physical symptoms of people feeling like they're flushed, blushing, heart racing, sweaty, nervous, restless, antsy, can't sit still.
Meet Sophie. She's an 8-year-old pup that is terrified of changes in the weather. Her owner, Julie Inglet, says she noticed it the first day they adopted her.
The very first day that we adopted her, we had no idea. The lady that we got her from completely forgot to tell us. Storms were coming in and she was acting crazy, and then the lady messaged me. She's like, "Hey, I forgot to tell you, she's terrified of storms." I said, "Oh, okay." Well, about that time, I opened the refrigerator to get her some cheese and Benadryl, trying to calm her down, and that's when she jumped in the refrigerator and was trying to hide, and it was very hysterical. And that's when I realized, oh, this poor baby, she is completely terrified.
Veterinarian Ross Thompson says he's seen this type of behavior in dogs quite a bit.
Typically panting, pacing, hiding, shaking. Most commonly they'll go hide under the bed or in the closet. Worst cases I've seen, destructive dogs trying to chew through doors, drywall, run away. They'll try and get out of the house.
This type of anxiety can impact the dog's health.
I do see a lot of stress, diarrheas afterwards, or upset stomachs. Dogs are so stressed out they don't want to eat, so it can be detrimental to their health.
Thompson says there are medications that can help with anxiety, but recommends other methods first.
It's kind of trying to desensitize them, and that's, a lot of people, I'll tell them to take their dog for a walk on a sunny day and to play a thunderstorm song or YouTube video on their phone. And kind of let that noise be, but doing something the dog enjoys, and do it over time, and each time increase the volume on your phone. And sometimes that'll help some of the cases where it desensitizes them to the thunder noise that they're scared of, or the wind, or whatever it triggers the anxiety.
As for humans, therapy is an option, but education may be the best cure.
Because just kind of knowledge is power, and if you know more about it, you can reason through some of the mental part of it, and then help your body to calm down with the rest of it.
I'm right inside the circuit.
That's the route McCurry is taking with his girls.
I think the biggest thing we've helped is just education with them and saying, hey, this is, here's the science of why this is just going to be a rain event, or this is going to be, hey, we got all the ingredients. And we kind of talk to them. And you've probably seen the meme about a taco warning and a taco.
I have.
Yeah. Yes. So we're like, we got the ingredients to make tacos, but we haven't made no tacos today, So.
All right, and we're going to continue talking fifth season coverage, Ken.
We can just do it right here, over here on the weather set. That way, our production assistant doesn't have to go out and change much there. I love that.
It was great.
That storm anxiety. We've been doing these fifth seasons and severe weather presentations for a little while now, several years now. But this is the first time we've actually dabbled into the mental part of it.
Right.
And how the idea came from me, because so many people tell me all the time, that they're so terrified of weather, but they like to watch us because we have a little bit of a, oh, okay, all right. We have, we tend to help not over sensationalize weather. We don't overhype it unless it needs to be, and it kind of helps calm their anxiety some.
Yeah, and Ken, and we talk about it behind the scenes all the time. We never try and scare anybody.
No,
You're going to see all these people hyping these pretty much minor events up like it's almost a doomsday scenario, and in reality, it's not. And we're going to keep it real with everybody.
Well, what happens with that is this, and I'm by no means bashing anybody from the Weather Service or the Storm Prediction Center. They do a great job. But what happens is they issue these convective outlooks, and they'll put big words into it, and they're categories from a level 1 up to a level 5, with 5 being the highest, 1 being the lowest. So these guys out there that are hyping it up will see that, and then they'll start posting out these big things. And what's happening is when you go and you watch those and you like it, and it helps them get money.
Right. Yeah, and and that's one of the things where it's a little bittersweet because we'll see meteorologists doing it a little bit as well, and we hate it because we like to keep it real with everybody.
Yeah, and I'm not going to change that, but it does make me wonder because I mean you look at my Facebook and our Facebook follows and likes compared to somebody who is out there hyping it up that's got several hundred thousands or millions of followers, and make me think, well, I mean, I'm not doing it right. Maybe I should do all this other nonsense. Who knows? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, but at the same time, it comes back down to us just as people in general, and
keeping it real.
Yeah, and that's how we are. We're just some down-home country guys keeping it real with everybody.
That's right. We really are some just down-home boys. That's right.
Yeah, that's all it is to it. And I believe we're over at the green screen for this.
I'm
is
over
that
there.
correct?
Are you there with me, or is it just me?
We're doing a one-tune shot. So we're gonna head over here, and we're going to talk about
you're a pretty good interviewer. Maybe you should host a talk show or something.
Well, maybe we could look into maybe a little podcast.
Well, I'm going to do that. So I mean, you'll be in Utah here pretty soon. So maybe we can do something, collaborate on something. So
we'll figure something out. All right, hold that thought. We'll be right back with a package over Jacksboro.
All right, our News Channel 6 Severe Weather Week continues with a look back at Jacksboro almost 1 year later to the date.
Yeah, that's right. The community still recovering. In fact, those little girls that you interviewed about the storm anxiety, they're from Jacksboro. So they went through that tornado, and the town still recovering after that tornado toured through the town on March 21st, destroying just about everything in its path. And as Tanner did,
times buildings can be rebuilt, we can't replace lives.
Whipping of the wind, then silence. Nearly 1 year ago to the day, Jacksboro was hit by a devastating EF3 tornado, leaving parts of the city in rubble.
Well, driving up to that elementary, it looked like a war zone on the front side of the elementary facing Main Street. And then I had to backtrack through the neighborhood and get to the school. And seeing all the overturned cars and just all the destruction there to the backside of the school. And then, wading through the water to get to the tornado hallways and everything.
Homes, businesses, and schools were all unrecognizable. The tornado hit when schools were letting kids out for the day, and it was headed straight for the elementary school. Superintendent Brad Burnett had to make a decision.
We had parents in car lines, we had students waiting to be picked up by buses, so we made the decision to halt all that. That proved to be a very valuable decision. Even though we sustained substantial damage to our buildings and our facilities, there were no serious injuries sustained by our students or staff or parents.
Miraculously, no lives were lost throughout the whole city, but the tornado left destruction in its path.
As I initially evaluated the damage, I'm like, oh, this is going to be impossible to recover from.
While the city came to terms with the wreckage, they knew nothing would get done if they just sat back and felt sorry for themselves.
We were too busy, really, to be disgruntled. We just rolled up our sleeves and went to work.
Debris removal was a huge challenge for us, and then just getting, the city back up and running, roadways clear and stuff like that.
Our focus immediately after that storm was just, to meet their emotional needs, get them reunited with their teacher, try to present some type of normalcy for those students. And so that was really our priority in the weeks after the tornado hit us.
The elementary school was not structurally stable enough to resume classes, so one pastor decided to step up and help. First Baptist Church Jacksboro turned their place of worship into a temporary school, holding classes for over a month while the elementary school was being rebuilt.
It was a terrible circumstance for everyone, But out of it, there was an opportunity made for us to be of service to our community. And what a joy it was.
For me, that's what leadership is. It's solving problems, and that's what we're doing here. And we do in both the city and the county. We do a great job of that.
In true Texas spirit, nearby communities also lent a helping hand.
We had surrounding school districts that donated money and school supplies, and we were just overwhelmed with the amount of support we had from our neighboring districts and even all across the state.
Most of Jacksboro has recovered from the damage of the tornado, but getting everything back to the way it was before is going to take some time.
Again, we still have a lot of structures in the community that were damaged, that are still in need of repair. As you drive by our high school, you see a big temporary roof structure, and so hopefully over time we can get that corrected and put back to as close to normal as it was before.
While the road to recovery may seem never-ending, there is light at the end of the tunnel. Significant progress has been made in just 1 year, and positive things have come out of this tragedy.
If there's anything positive that came out of a very difficult situation, it's just that we depend on one another, and we are a community, and we've got each other's back.
Knowing the people like I know the people now, it shouldn't surprise me. Yes, I mean, of course we would be where we're at because our folks here in Jacksboro just really went to work, and we didn't have time to complain or whine or anything else. We had to get busy, and we have.
Tanner De Leon, News Channel 6.
All right, everybody. Thanks for continuing to follow us over here on Facebook. And we're gonna, open the floor. Ask us any questions down in the comment center. We don't bite. We promise. We're nice guys. We try and answer any weather-related questions that y'all might have. Storm season's coming up. Kenny talked about your forecast here just a few minutes ago. If people missed that, what was the overall synopsis of it?
Garrett, we're finally getting rid of that awful La Nina weather pattern, and that's what brought the drought on. But as we transition to neutral, and you did some research on this too this year, typically speaking, it gets a little more active, and it has really not been. We've had a couple of events each spring over the last couple of years, but we haven't had a lot of tornado-producing days. And I think this year will be probably similar to that, but maybe a little bit more.
Right, and if you missed that package that actually ran, you can go find it over on our News Channel 6 website. However, one thing I'll mention is just the overall data aspect. I did the research over the last 20 years and did compare and contrast of, La Nina years, about how many tornadoes do we have per year. Well, on average, over those 20 years, it was about 10.8. And then coming out of that into more of a neutral pattern, only 11.2, so really not that much of a difference, but I'd say on average about half to about one tornado more than what we would see in a La Nina year.
Well, what you look, of course, there's no two seasons are ever the same.
Exactly.
And there really is no skill in long-term forecasts. There's skill involved if we sit down and put a forecast together over the next 5 to 7 days. But you're looking at something way out. There's just no way to tell what the weather pattern is going to do. All it takes is just one big storm system to come through and produce a Red River outbreak like that happened in 1979, and then you would classify this as a horrible tornado season. When that one event was horrible, but the overall number of days we had, it really wasn't too bad.
Right. Like, and a great example was in 2020 or 2021 that we had the 6 tornadoes out near
that was the year before last, so it'd been 2021.
And all of those went into that overall year. So all it takes is one day for us to technically have a bad season, when in reality it was just one event.
Yeah, one event. It's just like I say, it's just the number of days that would produce tornadoes has just kind of shrunk down some.
Right. And so we're about to come back.
Finish things up here.
Yeah, and we're going to wrap things up. And we'll hop back on Facebook here for just a second to answer any final questions that you might have. So give us 1 sec. We'll be right back. Well, that's going to do it for our weather special tonight. Ken?
Remember, you can always download our weather app for the latest weather updates and watch for us on social media. Turn those notifications on.
All right, everybody, thanks for joining us. We appreciate you coming here on Facebook and watching us. You know, if you haven't already and you just happen to stumble across our special, feel free to give us a follow here on Facebook. Ken, you've also got YouTube that you're doing as well.
Yeah. You know what the thing about it is with the Facebook is this video, this whole presentation, saves to the pages, so you can go back and watch. It'll be there for I think 30 days or so. So you can always go back and watch it. You can try to send us a message if you got one or a question. We're always more than glad to try to answer that. What'd you think about the 5th season this year?
Honestly, I thought it was a really good year with stories. You know, we've had some really good packages. Oh, I loved your anxiety pack. It was a really, really good package.
Yeah,
and,
I knew that one would be good. So
yeah,
I knew that one too.
So many people here got those furry friends that struggle with the storm anxiety, and so just having that reassurance and that little bit of knowledge and just a little bit of what you can do, just helps out. And if it can help somebody out, then well, we're doing our job.
Right now, if I can find a way to eliminate muddy paw prints coming in the house when it rains every time, I'll be doing really good. So.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for joining us. We're gonna hop off of Facebook. Hope y'all all have a great night.
There it is.